well, a few weeks or so. Well, I've been involved in Noah's Ark search for quite a while. And back in 1988, my weather research was cut short by a funding a deficit in the federal government, and I was put in remote sensing section. And when I understood what we'd be doing, looking at the Earth from satellites and aircraft and so on, and examining the pictures, it occurred to me as I was just going back home after my interview that this would be useful for Noah's Ark search. Well, nothing happened for around 12 years thereafter. I heard a little bit about this sort of connection. And then I started getting roped into this and started using the skills that I had developed over that dozen years. Well, the Bible says that the ark landed on the mountains, plural, of Ararat. Notice that plural, meaning a region, not a particular peak. So any tall mountain in the area is a candidate, not necessarily Mount Ararat. The Bible says that the descendants of Noah arrived in the Babel region, or Shinar, from the east. Mount Ararat in Turkey is due north. So that means it may not be the candidate. Mount Ararat is a geologically young volcano. If it was built after the flood, then the ark could not have landed on it. It wasn't there. And so we don't know for sure. And so Noah's Ark has not yet been found. There have been lots of false alarms, and you hear about them every so often. Well, Mount Ararat in Turkey is covered by a glacier. And here's a satellite picture of that glacier. There's a big Ahura Gorge over on this side where there's a landslide that has carved away part of the mountain. Okay, there's been many years of searching, and there's been detailed aerial photography all around the mountain, and at finer resolution than our satellites can do. They can spot individual sheep on the mountain and see that they're sheep and see the people and so on. And so we know for sure that the ark is not outside this glacier. There's been some apparent sightings on the edges of the glacier, but I think that most of them have just been optical illusions. The sides of the glacier keep sliding down the mountain. That's the way glaciers do. They just move over time. And such movement would destroy the ark, and certainly within a few thousand years. So there's some problems with having any ark near the edge of the glacier. Could be hung up on some rocks, but as some observations seem to show. But that is a problem right there. Well, what would be ideal would be a bowl-shaped vent. And volcanoes have these. And that would be needed to hold the ice in place for thousands of years. Here I just showed for illustration 2 vents in Mount St. Helens just before it exploded. Looking for a volcanic vent like there, a bowl filled with ice, and that ice would not be slipping off the mountain. So that would be a place to look for Noah's Ark, would be within one of those vents. Well, the Japanese, back in 2006, put up a satellite, which they have a pulsar, and it is using the L-band radar. It's a very long, like a 1/4 meter wavelength. And the long wavelength allows the radar beam to penetrate ice. And so I decided, hey, I got to get a picture of Mount Ararat and see what is beneath the ice. Is there anything underneath that ice, especially a volcanic vent? Well, I did buy a picture, and I got to examine it in late October, just last month, about 3 weeks ago. And so that's how new this is. This satellite illuminated Mount Ararat from the west. In other words, it shines the radar beam down and gets the reflection back. And so the west-facing side of the mountain is all bright because you get the good reflection. The east-facing side is fairly dark because it's sort of like in the shadow of the mountain. So that helps us interpret what's going on here. The high summit is right in this region, and this is all covered by the glacier. and I see a rim right here with a shadow behind it, and the bright over here with dark on the other side. So there looks like there's something going on right there in terms of a structure underneath the ice, and a little bit right here as well. Okay, so when I showed this to Rex, he indicated to me that somebody had published a radar sat image of Ararat, and that is a Canadian satellite, uses a shorter C-band radar. It doesn't get through the ice as well, but it gets there down somewhat. And that illuminated Mount Ararat from the east side. So the east side is bright, the west side is dark. And so again, we look at the structure here. Not as fine, not as detailed, it's a little bit noisy. We do see a rim right here, and there's something going on right there. While combining these two pictures, I was able to determine that there's a volcanic vent right here underneath the ice, and there's an older vent right here. Now there's talk about an Ararat anomaly. There's some visual things that some people are saying there might be something there underneath the ice. There's a crack. We get to see it into the crack. Well, that anomaly is right along this line right there. It is the rim of a volcanic vent. And so that's a natural rock structure that's causing optical illusions for people. Well, this is the one that I'm interested in. It's the newer one, apparently, because it intersects this one. And right in the center of that would be the deepest part. And right in the center of, right here's the image. And right in the center, I see some bright dots. Now, an arc would have some geometric shapes there which act like a corner reflector and would give a bright return to something, a radar shining into it. And so that would be a type of signature that we're after, but most likely we're just seeing rocks down there. But if we should go up there with ground penetrating radar and just scan that area.